Hi, everybody. This is Virginia Milner back with another episode of Jewelry with Jen. And today we are going to be working with sea glass. Thought we would make a nice little bracelet out of sea glass. I see a lot of necklaces out of sea glass and pendants made from sea glass, but I thought it would be nice if we made a bracelet. So that's what we're going to do today. Just a little bit of information. I get a lot of questions, well, not a lot, but I've had a couple of people ask me what the difference is between sea glass and beach glass. Okay, so sea glass is glass that has washed up from the sea, from salt water, and it usually has a little bit of a frosty color to it. Whereas beach glass is shinier and doesn't have that frost. And it usually comes from around fresh water, not salt water. So that's the biggest difference between the two. It takes a lot of time for the glass to form. What happens is if broken glass can get washed up and back and forth, excuse me, on the beach until all of the rough edges are smoothed out. And in the case of sea glass, like I mentioned before, it has a frosty color to it. But all of the rough edges and sharp edges are washed away by the rocks and the sand and the dirt, and it becomes something that you can use for craft projects and jewelry and things like that. It's getting a lot harder to find because people are recycling and being more conscious about not throwing things away or that could pollute the environment, which is wonderful. But anyway, that's just a little lesson on what the difference is between sea glass, comes from salt water in the geographical areas of salt water, whereas beach glass is usually from fresh water. That's it. So what we're going to do again is make a nice little bracelet out of our sea glass. And what you're going to need are your usual pliers, your cutters, your flat nose pliers, your round nose pliers, a ruler. You're going to need some chain for to put around your arm. You're going to need jump rings and lobster clasps. I can get it up there. A lobster clasp to fasten your bracelet. So I think that's everything. It isn't. We're going to also use wire. We're going to be using 24 gauge wire. Now on this particular one, we used silver wire. But I thought it might be fun today for us to use two colors instead of one. So we're going to be using two pieces of 24 gauge wire. Now, what you want to make sure is that you have at least 5 times the length of your sea glass. And I'm going to take us down to the other camera so we can do a little measuring. So what I'm going to do is measure my glass and see how long it is. Mine is about 1.5 inches long. So I want at least five times that amount. So 1.5, so 3, 6, 7.5 inches. And I would even give it more than that. 5 times at least. I would say at least 6. And depending on how much design you want to put on your sea glass, that will determine how much wire you use as well. So in this case, I wouldn't go less than 8 inches. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't go less than 10 inches. And what I'm going to do, because we're just going to be playing around with design, is give myself 12 inches, just so I know I have enough. So I'm going to say give yourself at least 12. Sea glass is not all the same size, so it's hard to get an exact number. That's where 5 times the length of your bead comes in. But I'm going to give myself plenty. So I've got about a foot there, and I'm going to give myself another couple of inches just to be safe. As a matter of fact, I think I'm just going to, well, give myself 18 inches of wire just to be safe. And if I have too much, I can cut it off. No problem. If I don't have enough, then I'm kind of in trouble because I'm going to have to start over and cut another whole piece of wire. And that would just be a little more wasteful than I want to be. Okay, so I'm going to cut 2 pieces of wire. In this case, I have a copper color and silver. I'm going to cut them both the same length. Or you can do all one color. It's entirely up to you. I just thought this might be fun. So I've got my 2 pieces of wire. And what I'm going to do is bring the ends together. So there's one end of both pieces, and then the other end of the 2 pieces. And I'm going to find the center of those 2 pieces. Just bring the ends together, the tips together. I'm going to find my center, and then I'm going to take my round nose pliers, and I'm going to go back near the back of my pliers in the biggest part, and I'm going to bring both sides together. I'm going to fold them over each other to make a circle. So I've got 2 strands going one way, 2 strands going the other way, and now you can see I have a circle. And that's what I'm going to use to attach to my chain. So once I have my circle, I need to twist my wire because I want to create a spine down the back that will hold my sea glass in place. So I'm going to twist my wire. Until I create my spine. Now you want to make sure that you're twisting all of your wire at the same time, not just wrapping 2 of your pieces down around the other. So the way to do that and make sure that they're both being wrapped is to keep the arms, I call these the arms, spread out wide, and then twist them both at the same time. Both sides at the same time. Now, once you get to a certain point, you don't have to leave it on the pliers. You can take it off of the pliers and just hold it with your fingers. This is 24 gauge wire, so it's not hard to manipulate at all. Just make sure you're twisting all your wires at the same time. And what I want to do is give myself enough of a spine. This is what I call the spine, this piece right here, to go all the way down the back of my sea glass. So that when I put my sea glass on there, the little circle sticks out on the top. And then I'm going to make another circle on the bottom. So I want to make sure that I have enough of a spine to extend out just beyond the opposite end of my sea glass. I think I can give it one more little twist. There we go. Let's see what I have now. Yes, there we go. So I've got my loops on one side. I'm going to make a loop on the other side to use to fasten both ends of my bracelet. Okay, so I have my little support piece here, and I'm going to take one side of my wire. So I have 2 pieces of wire here, and I'm going to use those 2. Doesn't matter which two, you just choose either two on one side or two on the other side. I'm going to go back near the back of my pliers, just like I did on this side. And I'm going to make a loop, just like I did in the beginning. So there's my loop for the other side. Then I'm going to wrap that wire around and back over to the other side. So now, this is what I have. The loop on one side, the loop on the other side, and it extends just beyond my sea glass. So now I have two loops that I'm going to use to attach to my...
You've got mail.
Sorry about that. That I'm going to use to attach to my chain. I don't know if you heard that, but I just got an alert that I had mail. I hope that it doesn't show up in my video, but in case it does, that's what it was. So now what I want to do is wrap my wires around my bead. First thing you want to do is decide which side you want to be the front and which side you want to be the back. In my case here, they're both about the same. They don't have any curves or anything like that, so it doesn't matter to me. So what I'm going to do is put my sea glass on my wire. There's the spine running all the way down the back. And now I'm going to fold one side of my wire up my sea glass. Now I want to make sure that my two wires are side by side and not all tangled up. So I'm going to bring one of my wires across. So they're over on this side. I'm going to bring it across and I'm going to wrap it around my sea glass, just like so. I want to make sure they're side by side. I don't want them to cross over. If you want them to cross over, that's fine. And I'm going to try to keep them side by side until I get to the other side where my loop is. And I want to keep it nice and snug and not too loose until I get to the top. As many wraps as you would like that you have wire for. So there's one side. And when I get to the top, I'm going to wrap it around my loop. Just give it a nice wrap around my loop. And I'm going to bring mine up the front of my loop, just so I have a nice little wrap around there. Not too many times, because I'm going to be bringing this around there too. So there's that. And then my other wire, I'm going to wrap it around this loop a couple of times so it looks like the other side before I bring it up. And I want them to look similar. I'm going to wrap it around there. And then I'm going to bring it up the other side. So I'm just going to cross that over like so. And then decide how you want to wrap it around the other wires. So I can make this any pattern I want. I think I'm just going to wrap it around just like that. up to the top and give it a wrap around my loop. There we go. And once I have that wrapped, I'm going to clip off these edges. So I have these ends here, and I want to clip off. So here's one set of ends. I'm just going to take my cutters and clip off those ends here. So there's two of them. Now I'm going to take my flat pliers and I'm going to push those little ends down so that they're not sticking up, all ready to scratch me. I'm going to check with my fingers, make sure they're nice and secure down there. I just don't want them to stick up and scratch me. Then I'm going to take the other one. Here's the other side. I'm going to cut those off. Okay. And then I'm going to push those ends down. Make sure they're nice and close to the other wires so they don't stick me. So I have a little bird's nest up here. A little creative chaos. Here we go. I'm going to neaten out my little loops a little bit so that I have both of them together. And the same thing on the other side. You don't have to worry about any wire ends because they're all on the other side. Neaten out my loops again on this side. And there we go. Here's my little bracelet. It's like one of those little name badges, those little name tag bracelets. Neat, huh? Now, one thing that you can do if you don't want it to be too loose, there's nothing wrong with it being loose, but if you don't want it to be loose, you can go back here to the back and take your pliers and just give it a little tweak. You can give it a twist, so that will tighten up your wires. Just tighten that up back there. Just give it a little twist. And then it looks like it's got a little lightning bolt back there, but it just makes your wires a little more tight. You can also do this on the front if you want to use that lightning bolt as a design element. You can do that too. I'm putting all of mine on the back because I just want my front to have nice straight wires. But now it's very tight back here. Nothing's going to move out of place. Very nice. There it is. Neat, huh? Now let's put everything together. We're going to take that and we're going to put it on our chain. And the way we're going to do that, see, I could have gone either silver or copper with this because I had both silver and copper wire. Yeah, either one would have been nice. See, I could have gone copper. I could have gone silver. But I thought, since I had silver on this one, I would do copper on this one. Starting to change my mind though. Either one looks great. Oh man, either one. What should I do? I'm torn. Yeah, I'm going to go with the copper. So what I want to do is cut myself a piece of chain that's about the circumference of my arm. I know I'm not going to need the whole piece, but if I have too much, I can cut off what I don't need. If I don't have enough, then I can't make my bracelet. So what I'm going to do is just cut this in half. Just put my ends together, just like I did with my wire. Put my ends together and cut right in the middle. I'm losing my voice again. Keeps happening. That's just me being tired. I think that's what it is. So I'm right in the middle there, and I'm going to cut it off. Now I want to go ahead and put my hand over my chain, because when I cut it, that piece of that little loop is going to go flying, and I don't want it to fly across the room. So let's double check that I have the center, have my ends together. There we go. Let my two sides hang down, find the center of it. With my cutters. Put my hand over my chain, give it a snip. See how all of those little pieces would have gone flying. I don't want that. So now I can move those little pieces out of the way and attach to my sea glass. All right. So I'm going to grab my jump rings. That's where my jump rings come in. So I'm going to put one jump ring on each side and attach it to my sea glass. So I'm going to take one jump ring and I'm going to find the opening, which I can see is right here. I'm going to take my pliers. I'm going to put it on one side of my opening. Then I'm going to grab my other pliers, and this is the proper way to open your jump ring. Just put your pliers on each side and give your jump ring a twist, and that will open it up correctly. You never want to pull the ends apart because they're almost impossible to push back together if you do. So I've got my jump ring open. I'm going to loop it into the ring on one side of my sea glass, and then I'm going to grab the ring, the last ring on my chain, one of my end rings, just that last little loop. I'm going to string that over my jump ring as well. There we go. Then I'm going to close my jump ring. I can just either twist it back the opposite direction to close it, or I can just squeeze the ends and then twist it the rest of the way, either with my fingers or with my pliers. Either way, I just want to make sure that those ends are back together. So there's one side of my bracelet, all secure. Then I'm going to go to the other jump ring. Now I'm looking at my little rings here. I want to make sure they're nice and neat together. So just go in with your pliers and neaten that up a little bit. And if those ends are sticking up, just push them back down. Make sure that's nice and neat. There we go. Okay, so again, I'm going to grab my jump ring, find the end. There it is, the opening. Grab my pliers and twist open my jump ring, just like that. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to loop it into the other side of my sea glass. Grab that last link of chain and close up my jump ring. Make sure it's nice and completely closed together. There we go. And there, my chain is nice and attached. Now I want to put it on my arm and check to see how much of my chain I need to cut off, because I don't need all of this, because I'm going to put on a lobster claw. So what I'm going to do is check that out. See how much I need to cut off. It looks like I need to cut off a good 3/4 of an inch or so. What you can do is either measure it with your ruler, or you can count the links to see how many you should cut off. So I'm going to snip that off. And the way that I know how much I need is, again, to put it on my arm, bring those ends together. Now I know I'm going to need less than this, because my jump rings and my lobster clasp are going to take up some space. But we're going to cut it down in little increments. So I'm going to cut off this much, about an inch, and then see how much more I need to cut off. But you're better off cutting off small amounts than too much. Again, I'm going to put my hand over my chain and snip that off. My cutters. There we go. Get those little pieces off that I don't need. So I need to get that little piece off that I just cut. Take that off the end and discard it. That little guy, that can go. So now I have about 2 3/8 of chain on one side, and I'm going to cut that same amount down on the other side. 2 3/8. Snip that off. With my cutters. And get rid of the excess. And I would suggest just keep measuring just to make sure everything's okay. So there we go. Here are my pieces. I'm going to put my jump rings on the other side. Now the jump rings that I'm putting on here are just a tad bigger. And the reason is because this jump ring is going to be what you attach your lobster claw to. So you want to make it sure it's big enough for you to hook into easily. So I'm going to open up my jump ring. Get that little piece off there. Open up my jump ring again with my pliers. One side of my pliers on one side of my little opening here. The other side of the pliers on the other side, and give it a twist. And I'm going to slide my jump ring into that last loop of my chain, just like I did on the other side. And then the lobster claw, my lobster claw goes in as well. And I'm going to squeeze my jump ring closed. Make sure those edges are nice and flush together, nice and even. Check it out, make sure it's nice and smooth. And there's one side already. Then go to the other side with my large jump ring. Find the opening. There it is. Put my pliers on the side. Put my other pliers on the other side. Give it a twist to open it up. And slide on my jump ring. Now, before I do that, I'm going to check and make sure that it's not going to be too big, because if it is, I'm going to need to cut some of my chain off. But I think it's going to be just fine, because you want a little bit of space in there so that your bracelet can move just a little bit. Okay, but you want to make sure that you measure your arm and make sure that it's big enough. So again, I'm going to slide my jump ring in that last loop of my chain. That last little link. Whoops, get back here. I can probably do it better with my fingers. And that last little link of chain. Get on there. It does not want to go in there because it keeps moving away. So let's see if I can do it while it's laying down on my mat. Let's find that link. And slide it in. There we go. Finally, make sure it's on that last link. And then I'm going to squeeze the ends of my jump ring together. And then use both of my pliers to make sure they're nice and closed. Let's close those up, close those up. Make sure they're nice and even. Nice, neat, and tidy. There we go. And I think we have a bracelet. Open up my jump ring. I mean, my lobster clasp. Hook it onto my jump ring. And there it is. There's my bracelet. Yay! Ah, neat, huh? Nice bracelet. Nice little sea glass bracelet. What could be easier than this? Nothing. All it takes is a little sea glass, some wire. In this case, we use 2 tones of wire. So we have a really nice zigzag loopy pattern here. My little loops on the side that connect to my chain. My little jump rings that connect my lobster clasp to my chain. And we are good to go. And look at how much different that is from the first one that I made. This one's a little more dainty. Get down there so we can see it. See that? It's a little more dainty. And this one's got a lot going on. I like it. That is it. That is our bracelet. What could be easier than that? All you need is your little sea glass, your wire, your jump rings, and your chain, and your lobster clasp, and you too can make bracelet. So there we have it. There's my bracelet. I don't know about you, but I will be wearing this. It's awesome. Nice and easy. fits nicely because we made sure to measure our wrist and do everything that we needed to do to make sure that it would fit before we cut our chain off, didn't we? There's that one. There's this one. Very different. You're going to have, if you get a kit, you'll have 2 colors of wire, and you can decide whether or not you want to do one like this with just 1 shade of wire, or if you want to do something a little more radical with 2 shades of wire. It depends on what your artistic brain is telling you. They're both good. They're both, neither one is right or wrong. They're just different. Just depends on what you want as to how you go about it. But now you have the basics. You can take those basics and you can work it out whichever way suits your fancy. So that's it. That's our piece for the day. That is our project for today. And I hope you enjoyed it. Please let us know, and please let us see what you do with your pieces of wire and your sea glass, and what you make out of your pieces of wire and your sea glass and your chain. Show us your creativity, please, because we really, really want to see it. So if you would like, you can post your pictures on the library Facebook page. Let's get a nice close-up of that and that. Post your piece on the library Facebook page, or you can send it to me at jewelrygen20@gmail.com. That's JEWELRYGIN20@gmail.com, and I'll post them for you on the library page, Facebook page, if you would like. But either way, let us know how you liked this video, how you liked this tutorial, and please, 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 if you are so inclined, show us pictures of your brilliance and your creativity, because we really would like to see it and get some feedback. Until then, until next time, you have a great week, have a good weekend, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.